Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to compare two shirts. One I'm going to use Out White Brite to remove part of the color, and the other one I'm just going to dye as is. For this experiment, I'm using two Gildan Ultra Cotton shirts that are light pink in color. For the sake of time, I'm only going to show you how I'm going to tie one of the shirts. I'm going to tie both of the shirts in the same pattern. However, the shirts are different sizes, so they will be just a little bit different. One shirt is a size medium and the other shirt is a size extra large. I'm going to start by centering the shirt. So this process is going to go pretty fast, but down below this video in the description for the video is a link to another video which shows how to center a shirt. What I'm doing when I center a shirt is getting both sides of the front of the shirt next to each other and both sides of the back of the shirt next to each other. That way, whenever I apply the dye or remove the color or do anything to the front side of the shirt, both sides of the front are going to look more similar, and the same thing with the back. Okay, so now that the shirt is centered, I'm going to use a piece of string and a washable marker to draw an arc on the side of the shirt. I'm going to do a double fan fold on this shirt. Now I'm going to fan fold this line and tie it with some sinew. Because I am going to remove the color from the shirt, I need to tie with sinew. If I just used kite string, which I usually do if I'm just going to apply the dye, it would remove all the dye or all of the color from this pink shirt. And I don't want that. I only want color removed from specific areas of the shirt. Any part of the shirt that I do not want to have the color removed, I'm going to tie those lines with sinew. Because the sinew is wax coated, that will not allow the color remover underneath that area to remove the color from those lines. I'm also going to tie the other shirt that I'm not going to remove the color from with sinew as well. Normally I would just tie that one with kite string, but I want to keep both of these shirts as close to the same as I can possibly get them. Then that way I can see what difference it made to leave the shirt pink versus removing the color. I'm going to continue fan folding on either side of this line and tying sinew lines in the shirt. This is where the two shirts are going to differ. I actually ended up with one more section in the size medium shirt than I did in the size extra large shirt. This happens to be the shirt that I'm going to do the color removal process on. So after I finish tying it, I set it aside for about 24 hours to let it dry out just a little bit. The fold on this is not super thick, so you can go ahead and do the color removal right now if you want. I usually like to let them dry out just a little bit though, so that I get good saturation from the color remover. I'm going to use a product called Out White Brite Laundry Whitener to remove the color from this shirt. I purchased mine at Walmart in the laundry aisle, But if you can't find it at your local store, I have a link down below in the description for where you can purchase it from Amazon. I use this product outside because it does have a smell, and I don't want to inhale any of the powder or the fumes, so I wear my respirator for the entire process. I liberally sprinkled Out White Brite powder over the top of both shirts, and then I'm going to pour boiling hot water over the top. And as you can see, the minute that hot water hits the Out White Brite, it starts to bubble and remove the color immediately. You'll notice I have a blue shirt down in the container at the same time. I've already made the video for that shirt. I actually compared doing two geodes using light blue shirts, very much like this video, just different colored shirts and a different tying technique. I'll leave a link to that video down below in the description for this one. So I haven't sped this video up at all at this point, and you can see that the color is pretty much all the way removed. The shirt is almost completely white, which is kind of unusual. Most of the time on black shirts or navy blue shirts, the shirt will go to kind of a taupe color. So I'm going to go ahead and speed the video up at this point. I left the shirts in the Out White Brite for about 10 minutes. Then I took them to my utility sink and I drained off the Out White Brite and I rinsed them in cold water. I went ahead and left both of the shirts tied and put them into my washing machine along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent, and I washed them using a hot water cycle. Then after the shirts were finished in the washing machine, I put them into my soda ash solution and I soaked them for about 20 to 30 minutes. Whenever I soak a shirt in soda ash solution that is a colored shirt or that has gone through a color removal process, I generally try to pour a little bit of my original soda ash solution out into a container and soak the shirts in that. I don't put them into my full large soda ash solution container because sometimes a little bit of residual color will come out of the shirts, and I don't want that to contaminate my entire soda ash solution container. After soaking the shirt in a soda ash solution, I wrung it out of my Panda spin dryer and I set it aside to dry out. This design doesn't necessarily have to be dry to go ahead and apply the dye. However, the shirt that I'm going to leave pink is already dry after the soda ash solution soak, so I want this one to match that one. So I'm going to go ahead and put it aside and allow it to dry out for a couple of days. I'm going to incline ice dye both of these shirts, so I've placed them down inside of some vinyl guttering. Then, to make sure they don't slide all the way down to the bottom, I'm going to take a small piece of kite string and tie it to the very end of the shirt. Then I'm going to use a small metal clip to attach the piece of kite string to the end of the guttering. That way the shirt won't slide down. I also just wanted to note that I have each shirt in its own separate piece of vinyl guttering. I just have both of the pieces of guttering right up next to each other. Okay, so now it's time to start applying the dye. I'm using Razzle Dazzle, Hydrangea, Imperial Purple, and Raspberry from Dharma Trading Company. Then I'm going to use Royal Purple from Dye Spin. I had Snosberry from Dharma pulled to use on the shirt, and I decided against it, so I pulled that color out of the lineup. Okay, so after I've applied the dye, I'm going to add a small additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of the dye. Then I'm going to add on a layer of ice. I've applied the dye and the ice to the shirts while they're still laying flat on the table. I'll incline them in just a few minutes. To incline the shirts, I'm using a plastic tote that is almost 6 inches tall, and I'm placing one end of the vinyl guttering down into the container, and I'm going to leave the other end hanging off of the edge. This is going to put the shirts at what I would guess to be maybe like a 20 to 25% incline. I put the shirts aside and I allowed the first layer of ice to melt. Then I came back and added a second layer of ice and allowed it to melt as well. After the second layer of ice melted, I left the shirts alone and I allowed them to process for at least 24 hours after the ice melted. So here's what both of the shirts looked like just before I began rinsing them. I started rinsing them in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied both of the shirts and rinsed them in hot water to try to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I kept rinsing the shirts until the water was running almost clear. Then I put them along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent into my washing machine and washed them using a hot water cycle. Once the shirts were washed and dried, this is what they look like. Okay, so here's a quick look at both of the shirts together. The one on the left is the extra large that I left pink and dyed straight over the pink color. The one on the right is the size medium that I used the Out White Brite to remove part of the color before applying the dye. Okay, so this is the shirt that I dyed while it was light pink. And it's honestly really hard to tell that the shirt was light pink. You can kind of see the original color in the very side portions of the shirt where the initial fan folds began. But for some reason, the lines that should be light pink kind of almost have a blue hue to them. I'm not entirely sure what happened with that. It's a little bit odd, but it kind of gives a cool effect. Obviously, I like all the colors on this shirt. I think they flow really well, and I wanted to use colors that would go with the pink lines. I didn't want the colors to look really strange over the top of the pink. You have to keep in mind whenever you dye a shirt that is already a color, that the color of the initial shirt can affect the way the dyes look over the top of that color. So that's kind of why I chose this color palette. Okay, so this is the shirt that I used the Out White Brite on. And I actually think that the lines looking more blue shows up a lot more on this shirt, especially right down the middle. If you'll notice those lines right down the middle of the shirt, how they have a very blue tint to them. Like I said, I don't really mind that effect. I think it kind of adds to the shirt. Okay, so now that you've seen the shirts separately, let's put them side by side again and see if it made any difference in the shirts to use the Out White Brite over against not using the Out White Brite. So the first difference that I see is that the Out White Brite shirt is just a brighter shirt. After I used the color remover on the shirt was almost completely white. So because the dye didn't have to go over a light pink shirt, it went over a shirt that was pretty much white. The dye just looks brighter on the shirt. The other thing is if you'll notice, there are some darker lines on the shirt from the color movement, and I'm not entirely sure why that happened on that shirt versus happening on both of the shirts. It's an interesting effect though, and I really like it. I like those darker lines. It almost makes the two side fan folds look like flowers coming out. That paired with the line that should be light pink, which is actually like a light blue hue going down the middle of the shirt, I think gives a really cool effect to the Out White Brite shirt. The other thing I notice on both of these shirts is because I tied them with sinew versus tying them with a kite string. The dye didn't move as far down the shirts as it normally does on an inclined fan fold. That's understandable because the sinew lines are going to stop part of that dye movement. I'm not sure using this light of a shirt, it made a big enough difference though to go through the extra step of removing the color. Without both the shirts side by side to compare, it would be really hard to tell that the pink shirt originally started out pink. But overall, I'm really happy with both of the shirts, and this was a fun experiment to do. So if you guys have enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.